Here we go. Productive Corporation. Productive is a security and storage software expert for mid-sized companies. We offer dedicated account execs with specialized knowledge that can answer licensing and technical questions, so you don't have to wait on hold or navigate the publisher yourself. We offer relevant resources for the products we specialize in, brief product descriptions, key features, benefits, system requirements, requests for custom quotes, product documentation, and trial downloads. All of this is available at productivecorp.com. We also have learning centers which contain videos for how to implement and optimize the products we sell. We produce 2-minute tech guides, P-guide articles, and product comparison videos to provide a third-party perspective on current IT trends for the mid-market. All of this can be found at productivecorp.com/content. The bottom line is we have the resources to help you. Help at productivecorp.com, 800-726-4099. We're here to help. So utilize us. Call us, email us, use the web. That's what we do. We vet solutions so you can have a nice range of technology to help you in your environment so that you can focus on your job of making sure that your businesses can stay effective, available, and keep creating unfair competitive advantages over your competitors. So do it. That's who we are. So with that, we're going to segue into Barracuda. Barracuda is a company, and Barracuda Web Security. As you know, Barracuda has been in the heart of the mid-market for years, and you know them from their firewalls and anti-spam, anti-malware stuff at the gateway. We're going to talk about web security today, and maybe some of you know or had come to a previous web event. They are starting to sell a ton of backup as well. Probably 40% of the mix now is backup. According to the backup people, Stephen may have some issue with that. Still sell a ton of security because they are a market leader. They have had tons of accolades from Forrester, Gartner, et cetera, and really do quite a good job. Stephen today is going to talk about the web filter, and I want to let you know we may or may not touch on it, but they also have a web security service, which just have you keep in mind if you don't want it to have an appliance, that may be the way to go. But I don't want to steal the thunder of Stephen Chase, so we are going to turn the microphone over to Stephen, and why don't you give a warm virtual applause of Stephen Chase to Stephen Chase, Content Security Specialist for Barracuda. Stephen?
Hey, thank you very much, Todd, and that was a very good introduction. I'm going to, let's see here, switch over to my PowerPoint. There we go. And we're going to show my screen now. All right.
Perfect. We're seeing it.
Excellent. And so, yeah, like Todd was saying, one of our flagship products is our Barracuda Web Filter. Our spam and virus firewall, people may say that's our flagship, but the web filter is right there behind it. It keeps the lights on, so to speak. We sell a lot of web filter. It is our most robust solution with regard to web security. So, without further ado, I'll drop into my slide here. And so just some quick facts about the web filter, or about, internet use in general. 30 to 40% of internet use in the workplace is not related to business, and that's, IDC research. Over 60% of all online purchases are made between 9 and 5 p.m. When people should be working. 70% of all porn traffic occurs between that 9 to 5 workday as well, according to Sex Tracker. And 37% of workers say they surf the web constantly while at work, so using up unneeded bandwidth on the network. So we have some challenges for IT. With network security, we want to prevent web-borne attacks, protect against malware and spyware, also increase productivity, regulate web browsing, monitor internet activity, protect users from inappropriate content, and also managing network resources so that we can regulate application use. We are application aware with the web filter appliance. We have that capability. We can scan non-standard ports. We can also regulate the use of bandwidth this way by limiting those apps, maybe blocking them, for example, for certain users. Implementation and maintenance, very easy. to manage, also reduce overhead in IT departments, scalability without high impact on cost. We can easily upgrade any of our appliances as you grow. So here's some things about the Barracuda Web Filter. We're integrated web security and content filtering. So we regulate non-work related browsing like adult sites, social networking, chat, sports, regulate the use of applications on the internet like peer-to-peer, BitTorrent, instant messaging, and multimedia. We prevent virus and spyware at the gateway, so we do scan inbound, outbound internet requests for virus and malware, block that at the gateway, giving you that added layer of protection. We're going to block phone home spyware activity as well, like botnets, as they tend to port hop when they make outbound requests out your network. We can actually block those requests with the web filter, and that's going to help eliminate spyware from PCs. We actually do have a spyware removal tool built into the appliance, which will prompt your user to remove spyware threats and then actually remove those threats. We have a detailed drill down reporting, very easy to set up reports to reoccur. Or you can simply go right to the web log, and I'll show you this in my demo later, filtering out information very quickly from the web log. So like I've been saying this whole time, it's easy to use, it's easy to implement, it's a single appliance integration. We do have 7 models and multiple implementation scenarios. Maybe you need to have it in a forward proxy rather than inline on the network. Maybe you want to utilize that WCCP, that protocol your Cisco ASA uses. We can do that too. We have the energize updates, which occur, once an hour, maybe sometimes actually more often than that, depending on how crucial the updates are. And again, scalable in the high availability mode. If you want to go with an HA pair, we can pair these easily, and we can also, load balance between web filters. So it's affordable, no per user fees. We don't nickel and dime on features. It's all built into the appliance.
What does it typically take to get that thing up and running? And maybe you can show us when you show us the demo.
Yeah, a lot of people love the web filter just because, to get it on the network, plug it in, boot it up, 15, 20 minutes, and then we have default settings already in place. So, you could just plug and play it, or you can go in and quickly, customize your settings maybe within an hour or two, get that all done. So, call it a day, no longer than a day needed to set this thing up.
Okay.
So, yeah, look at the slide here. Oops, sorry, guys. There we go. We have malware and spyware protection with this appliance. Inbound, like I was saying, scanning against spyware and virus. Outbound scanning for, home phone spyware as well. We have the integrated spyware removal tool. And then for content filtering, we actually have 96 categories now that you can do content filtering by, your basic URL filtering. That's going to give you 4 rules: block, allow, monitor, or warn. Then we've got non-browser and browser-based application filtering as well. So, outside the browser, maybe on those Android devices, iPhones, iPads, people are going to be trying to launch apps where we can actually block that kind of application request. We can also block circumventors and proxies, guys that, would be using to try and circumvent the solution. We'll actually block those from launching as well. We've also got the access management, authentication integrated policies by users and groups. We can use LDAP authentication for, Active Directory full integration. We're going to reflect, organizational units, groups, usernames, all of that. We'll see the entire forest.
Hey, so Steven?
Yeah, go ahead. Mm-hmm.
So does Barracuda work with companies like Windstream to use this on a MPLS network?
So yeah, it depends on how you're backhauling your internet traffic. If you do backhaul, whether that's like a site-to-site or through an MPLS, as long as the internet traffic is being backhauled to a central location, you can put a web filter at that central location and in effect filter all users coming through there. If you have a distributed network, each with their own egress, their own internet connections, then you would probably want to put hardware at each connection. So it just depends. And we do have a way to centrally manage multiple units too. We have a cloud control center, so if you want to utilize that, that's a standard feature for any of our appliances. Another way to manage all of your Barracuda products from one place, you would just go to login.barracuda.com, log into your cloud control center, and you can see all of your Barracuda products and manage them from there. So that makes it a lot easier
so
to manage.
in this instance, the hardware would have to be within the Windstream cloud. They have 10 locations, would love to use one of these in their data center.
Oh yeah, no, that would be very nice. That's a great way of filtering traffic if you can get right into that central location where all the traffic is backhauling to. Absolutely.
Yeah. And so let me know if that answers your question. If not, we can always get Stephen to do a custom demo, talk offline more specifically about your situation. But I think we got this one right now.
Yeah. Typically with the deployment questions, we have the inline deployment. You would see the web filter deployed between your physical firewall and your core switch or your router. That's an inline deployment, our most robust way of deploying it.
Okay. Cool. Thank you. Thanks for the question.
Yeah, thank you. And so getting on with this slide here, we also can do HTTPS filtering. We'll do a DNS, basically a hijack, and be able to filter that traffic as well. So people are like concerns about HTTPS filtering, as Facebook, Twitter, these are all HTTPS now, all SSL traffic. So we can definitely do filtering easily across the entire line of web filter appliances. Not a problem. We can even enable SSL inspection now on the higher models. The 6 series and higher models can do SSL inspection. So if you want to do some special scanning on SSL traffic, we can actually enable that now. We also have the ability to do remote filtering for devices that might be traveling outside your network. Maybe you have resources, devices you've handed out to your employees, and you want to continue to filter and monitor those outside the network when they go home. And we can do that with the Web Security Agent. You'd have unlimited access to the WSA on the 4 series and higher models. This is a feature that comes with the 410 and higher, and you'd have access to that WSA, which would be used for normal operating systems. We also have a way to remote filter iOS-type devices. Those would be, iPhones, iPads from Apple, and we use a browser, so we call it the Barracuda Safe Browser, and that would be able to enforce content filtering on remote devices with iOS. So we even have that. I think it's getting 4 out of 5 stars on the iTunes App Store right now. And then again, we have great reporting. Yeah. The powerful, graphic HTML reporting. We also have PDF. If you need a clean report to shoot over to someone, we can also support CSV and text file formats. And so the basic benefits of the web filter, obviously protecting your network, enforcing policies on your internet use. It's very easy to install, like we were talking about earlier, and the low cost. There's your malware protection at the gateway. We're going to detect spyware. We're going to filter those PCs remotely, and we can integrate, obviously, utilize your spyware removal tool if you wish.
Do you get an axe, sword, and shield with every appliance you buy?
Yeah, no. Well, you will get a T-shirt though.
Oh, okay.
And just specify what size. Yeah,
okay.
No, definitely. Our T-shirts are getting more and more popular. So, yeah, but too bad we can't send you an axe or a sword. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, for enforcing policies, filter by category, application filtering. We have an entire section, an entire lengthy list of applications that you can choose to block on the network, either from a high level globally or on a granular level via the exceptions. We can do policies by URL, domains, MIME type blocking, basically file type blacklisting. So if you don't want people uploading certain file types or downloading certain file types, we can do that. And then we have our reporting. Plug and play, incorporated reporting engine, so everything is retained locally on the device. The web filter will retain up to 6 months of reporting log data locally. You don't need to manage any external databases, all done locally. If you choose, you can actually manage that reporting log data how you see fit. You can actually bleed that reporting log data over as a CSV file to a syslog server if you want to manage that data how you would like, or if you want to hold on to that data indefinitely. That's one way to do it. Supports inline, like I was saying, my favorite deployment as a transparent proxy. or we can do a forward proxy or utilize that WCCP on your Cisco switches. And low cost, integrated functionality in a single appliance, no per user charges, we're not going to nickel and dime you. And then we'll have hardware and subscriptions are less expensive than renewals for competitive products. So sometimes even the cost of our hardware and our subscription is less than the competitor. So we've got some implementation scenarios here. Yeah, no, it's pretty shocking actually. Sometimes when I hear about a WebSense or another competitor's renewal costs, pretty eyebrow raising.
Yeah.
Now, when we look at some implementation scenarios, the functionality of the web filter, we've got the pass-through, the inline, forward proxy, WCCP, which is actually very similar to a forward proxy. Plug and play, instant on with pre-configured policies. Like I was saying, we do have default settings built into the web filter. We can cluster. We can set up for failover if you want to do that, fault tolerance, redundancy, and you can load balance. Obviously, it would be good to have 2 load balancers between an HA pair. That's just making sure that if one load balancer goes down, the other one would obviously be there too. We're scalable that way. We're centralized administration. We have a web interface that you'd be managing. I'll show you that in just a second. And then we have the transparent user authentication. So authentication services, like LDAP we'd be using. We can also use NTLM or Kerberos if you've got like a terminal server environment or fat clients, that sort of stuff. And then we can transparently apply user groups policies. We have single sign-on. Actually, if you have Active Directory and we're integrating with that, we can actually install our DC agent onto your domain controllers so we can monitor logins, and we'll actually see your users as they log into their machines so they're authenticated upon login. Go a step further with that. Again, we do support those terminal services, and then we'll be using NTLM or Kerberos, and we can also support Novell eDirectory and actually authenticate users in that type of scenario. A little bit more about our web security agent. Obviously, protect PCs and laptops from inside or outside the network, reinforce compliance and web security. They're tamper resistant. You cannot uninstall this. It's installed on a kernel level, tamper proof. Secure connections between web filter and workstations. Enforce user group policy from any connection, so whether they're at Starbucks or at their home. Centralized administration implementation, because you're just managing the one web interface. You don't need to do any other fancy management. And here's just kind of a breakdown of our web filter architecture. With our Energize updates, we actually have 6 different categories that we're updating. That's the spyware removal database, the spyware signatures, protocol, virus definitions, spyware website database, content filtering database. Obviously, we're going to categorize 99.95% of the websites on the internet. It's a pretty high accuracy. As new websites emerge, we actually have 2 different teams working, to identify those new websites, and an intent team. So just in case something gets miscategorized, within minutes we can actually categorize that correctly for you. You can just make a quick request, submit that to us, and the intent team will fix that. And you can see how things travel here from the internet to the end user and how we're going to provide the security for you. And here's kind of a rundown of all our other products that we have. Obviously on the desktop side, we're going to be protecting you with the web filter. But then on your internal server network, your spam virus firewall, your message archiver. Also, like we were talking about, our host product, the backup. We actually have discontinued the IM firewall, but that was pretty cool when we had it. And then we have the SSL VPN. And then on the data center side, your load balancers, your web application firewalls to protect those website, those web servers. And so what I'm going to do now, guys, is I'm going to actually drop into our demo site here.
So, hey, as we're transitioning to the demo, Stephen, what if, is there a scale down in terms of the size of the different web filters? So what is the range? Could somebody have like a scale down one at a bunch of locations, or just the bigger one at one location, or how do we? Is that a call to kind of have one-to-one, or what would you say with regard to that?
Yeah, well, I mean, when it comes to sizing, I always say, go to barracudanetworks.com and go to the Products tab and actually click on the Web Filter Learn More button, and we'll have a data sheet posted on there for you. And if you want to go with a big box, if you're backhauling traffic to one central location, maybe you've got 150 meg connection there to handle all that backhaul traffic, up to 2,000 concurrent machines, you would go typically a 610 appliance. Now, if you've got a small connection and it's just a location there that you want to have a hardware appliance there to be inline and give you app control and lock down a smaller location, we've got the 210 and 310. The 310 is usually the base model that I recommend because the 210 lacks Ethernet bypass hardware. With an inline deployment, you want that to probably fail open in the event that you have some sort of failure. And I'm not saying that there is going to be a failure, of course, but it's nice knowing it's there, right? So you're not getting a call at midnight saying, the network is down, so-and-so is trying to access the database, they can't get in, and you have a real mess on your hands. So Ethernet bypass hardware is usually a nice thing to have. The first unit that would have that is the 310. It can actually scan at up to 50 meg, 50 meg, handling up to 400 concurrent machines, and we've actually increased the TCP connection load that it can handle up to 3,000. So we're constantly evolving our web filter, making it stronger and more powerful, and same price though, same energized updates, subscription, everything stays the same. We just make our products better.
All right, thank you for that. Let's go live and take a look at this bad boy.
Okay. All right. I did want to show you guys, if you do see a data sheet, on the second page we have it all broken down here. So you can see the TCP connection loads that we can handle and the scanning range. All right. So I'm going to log into our web filter demo. And you can always get here by going to demo.barracuda.com. And you can actually demo any of our appliances from there, actually any of our products, even including the Barracuda Firewall, one of our newest products. And when you get to the login screen, you can always just click the login button. It'll drop you straight in. There's no password needed for any of our demos. And so right now we're looking at the status page, and I'll just walk you through real quick here. We can see that we're blocking and allowing certain web requests, also blocking spyware, because we do, again, scan inbound, outbound requests for virus and malware. It's good to also note the performance statistics. Obviously these things are important to the box, like your internet connection speed. We want to take that into account, how much throughput you're actually consuming towards internet on your network. Also the number of active TCP connections. Good to know those as they fluctuate. We like to know when spikes occur because we don't want to create any sort of latency on the network. We want to size up for the biggest time of day when everybody's surfing on the internet. Also good to note about the reporting log storage is we're going to retain up to 6 months worth of reporting log data right on the local device. And it's good to watch that as that's building because it should be growing quite slowly actually over 6 months' time. We do require energized updates with our web filter appliance. That's going to include your 24/7 maintenance and support for the box. All definitions updates, as we were talking about, there's 6 categories that we update. Typically about once an hour, and that's not going to affect any performance on the box either. Then it will also include firmware upgrades. Firmware upgrades happen a few times a year, I'd say. Our next firmware upgrade is coming in just a couple weeks, actually. It's going to be the 7.0 firmware, and we'll be adding 25 new reports in the reporting section. We've already got a very large number of reports that you can run, but we're making it even more comprehensive. We're also going to include a GUI on this screen that we're actually looking at. It's going to change, and we're going to have real-time bandwidth consumption, so we can kind of see that as it's happening on the web interface here. So those firmware upgrades are nice, and just as long as you have those energized updates current, you'll be able to upgrade your firmware. Instant replacement is an optional subscription. Most customers go ahead and get that because web filtering is normally a priority. You don't want to be down for, say, up to 2 weeks waiting around for Barracuda to repair or replace a box, within the warranty period and get that back to you. With instant replacement, we can overnight you a box and get there the next day. You just restore your settings and your web filtering the very next morning. The other thing to note is that there's a hardware refresh built into that instant replacement subscription. So after 4 years, Barracuda is just going to overnight you a brand new box because we want you on the latest and greatest hardware. want to refresh that aging hard drive at that point and get you on the latest technology that Barracuda has to offer. So instant replacement, make sure that you get that.
So, Stephen, is that next day, is that anywhere in the U.S., or is it, is there some,
Yeah, if you're outside,
or?
if you're outside the United States, maybe say in Canada, I would recommend going through a Canadian, it's hard to say because, unless you go through a Canadian VAR, we can't really guarantee that next day. But anywhere in the United States, we're definitely guaranteeing the next day delivery of one of our boxes. Absolutely.
From a U.S. partner, right?
Yes, from a U.S. partner.
Yep.
You got it.
Yep. I gotcha. Okay. I just want to clarify. We have some Canadian customers. I think all the guys on this one are from the U.S. But so
yeah, we also can support countries outside of the United States though through your own channel because we have international part SKUs. So we can actually ship out to other countries domestically though. You can purchase domestically, but you'd be purchasing an international part SKU. So that's the only difference there.
Okay.
Yeah. We have an infection activity log here. This is actually not infections occurring on your network. This is actually blocked threats. So if you want to see the web filter doing its job, we can drill into that log there. And if you want to see the most recent block request, maybe you just want to check that out, we can go into that log right from the status page. We're also going to show you hourly web filter statistics. And it's good to note some of these, like top domains by bandwidth. And then we'll also have daily web filter statistics down here. And so like I was saying, when you take a look at these top 10 lists, this is where all your bandwidth is going. And are people supposed to be on Netflix? And if you're seeing that kind of information, you might want to go back into your policy exceptions area, make sure that your policy is getting enforced correctly, or maybe you might want to just create a policy to block that. I'm going to show you guys the web log next. And it's very easy to manage web log. We're going to have a log of every internet request unless it's been exempted. And if you exempt traffic, you also don't scan it either. So you want to make sure that if maybe the president of your company wants to go unmonitored, that he's got a good antivirus on his desktop because we will not scan his traffic either. But we do log all requests otherwise, and we'll give you a timestamp, a source IP where that request came from. If we've integrated with Active Directory, in this case, LDAP authentication, we'll show the username, the action, and then the hyperlink to the URL they were just at. So the entire URL string is in here, and we can click on it and go right to the website if you want. The category that it falls under, and then any reason. Maybe it was a whitelisted website, and that's why it was allowed. We'll actually tell you that there. Or maybe it was blocked due to a content filtering policy. So we'll let you know that as well. We can add multiple filters to this, so if you want, you can quickly, based on maybe some reporting that you're seeing, drill down. And maybe there's a certain day that you want to look at, start and end time, also source IP, username, action, but we can also do others as well. We can export this weblog as a CSV file if you wish, and then by clicking the refresh button, you're going to get the latest requests. So it is a real-time running weblog, but it is a static page. That's just so that we can manage the data and see it right there, not be following something that's moving. But to get the most recent request, we do refresh. The reports are very easy to set up, and we can do these ad hoc, or we can schedule them to reoccur. Basically, you want to pick the time frame to look at, and in this case, we're choosing the last hour of today, and then we're going to limit the report. And these are all the ways that we can limit a report. So it could be everybody that we're looking at, or maybe just the unauthenticated guests, or your authenticated users, all logged groups. And we can also get as granular as the IP address. IP group, maybe there's a particular subnet that we want to look at. LDAP user, group, and OU. So if we choose user, for example, an Active Directory user, I'll just use Layla as an example here. So we can find Layla by looking up her username, add her, and we'll run a HTML report. By default, we're going to be able to run a default HTML report, and we'll see the last request that she's made in the last hour. We can see that she's made this number of requests to each domain. She spent this much time on each domain. This much bandwidth was allocated towards these requests. And maybe we're interested in knowing exactly where she was going in this domain, because this is an aggregate report. So we can actually drill down and go into forensics with HTML reporting, which is really cool. So we can see the timestamp of each request and the exact URL she went to. Now we're only showing 5 results out of those 25 because we haven't customized the settings yet. So we can easily customize settings by going into Show Advanced Options, and the formatting is actually where you change this. So if we wanted to show more than 10 results on those domains, we can easily show as many as you want. We can also change the format to PDF, text, or CSV file from here. And then also on the drill down, we're only showing those 5 requests, but we could have shown 25 by changing that number there. So just want to show you how easy it is to customize these reports. We can also choose to only show requests to a particular domain. Or we can choose to exclude those requests as well. We can also choose this by category. Maybe we only want to see social networking or exclude social networking type requests. We can also make exclusions from the reporting based on time of day, day of week, and action. So maybe we only want to show blocked requests. Or maybe we don't want to show blocked requests, but we want to show everything else. So it just depends on what you need, easily customized in that advanced options section. These are our canned reports here, really easy to run. And if you ever have any questions about what these reports are actually showing you, we have an entire help area that we can go into and read about it. We can also see, okay, what's users by request going to include? So we can see that information here. And so we have a table breaking down each report so we can figure it out, choose the best report for what we need, and run it. We do also have, of course, 24/7 tech support. So if you're having any kind of issues running reporting, it's not looking like you want it to, give us a call. We'll help you out. We can even open a support tunnel and do it for you and help us schedule that.
So are you giving them, say, like, hey, here's the top 5 reports most people run, right? I mean, is that, or, I mean, I know people are looking for some different stuff, right? So I always want to have a range of reports, but.
Right. So, yeah, depending on the kind of report that you want to run, if you're looking at a particular user, I would use these reports. If you're looking at everybody, then we're going to use some of these reports, and it's just going to give you those top users so we can single them out. Also trends, One that I know is really intense is the user activity log. We've got just as much information as you will ever need in that report. But yeah, absolutely. And maybe you're concerned about threats. Maybe there's just a lot of blocked threats for a particular machine. We can figure that out by going into this type of reporting here and see what's being blocked the most for a given machine. Maybe they've got an infection, and we need to look into that. So to schedule a report is really simple. You just name it, choose how you'd like to deliver it. You can send it to multiple emails, or you can send it as a file to your server. And we can choose between FTP or SMB. Choose the frequency. So if this is a one-time report, you would just choose once, or if you want to reoccur, we choose hourly, daily, weekly, or monthly. Apply it, and it'll go down below into the scheduled reports section. You can always come in and edit, copy, delete, or disable the report, and you can even dedicate a role to do this reporting for you if you want. If you're the IT administrator and maybe somebody else wants to be able to do reporting and run reports, you can actually delegate out a role called monitor, and the monitor role can come into this section. However, when they log into the web interface with their own username and password, identify themselves as the monitor role, they'll have everything grayed out except for the reports section. And then furthermore, you can actually limit their access and say, okay, you can do reporting, but you're limited to this Active Directory group or this IP range. We can actually do that as well. So just wanted to point that out. That's actually a delegated admin role found in the advanced section. I'll show you that in just a little bit later. So moving right along, yeah, I wanted to go into the authentication section next, actually. This is the section where you would set up your LDAP settings so that we can authenticate your users. Active Directory is the most commonly used directory there, but we also have Novell eDirectory, as you can see. We have our LDAP settings here. This would allow us to communicate over port 389. And then we can go a step further, like I was talking about in my presentation, about enabling single sign-on. So we'd actually install our DC agent onto your domain controllers. And you may have multiple domain controllers. That's why I always let you know that you can do this by just adding each domain controller in there. And now we can enable single sign-on because that DC agent is residing on the domain controller and it's monitoring login events. If we want to do NTLM or Kerberos, we have those as choices as well. So that's your basic authentication. If we wanted to go into policy next, we can go into the content filtering. Like I was saying, 96 different categories here. And we are going to block the red ones and allow the green ones by default. In this demo, though, we're allowing everything it looks like, except for maybe peer-to-peer. But it's up to you. You know, if you want to block that, bam, done. And if you want to do that for unauthenticated users, you can create your global unauthenticated policy in here as well. So I did want to show you that you can toggle between those two types of groups. And we are losing the warn rule for the unauthenticated guys, but for authenticated, we can do warn rules. A block rule, you know, if you are blocked and you are served a block page, you can actually authenticate on the block page. A lot of people ask me about that. You know, what if I'm blocked and I'm not known? Well, you're given the chance. You can click the authenticate button on a block page, identify yourself with username and password in Active Directory, and now you may be allowed access to that website because you've identified yourself. The other role, or the other way that you can override a block page is by having your temporary whitelist role come over. And again, that's a role found in the delegated admin section. But the temporary whitelist cannot access this web interface, but they can definitely override a block page for you. So it's kind of a temporary solution in the interim while the IT admin, you know, may create a policy exception to allow you access to that website moving forward, or whitelist that domain so that you can always access it. But we do have a temporary whitelist role just in case you need something that's very critical and you need to override it. They can run over, click the temporary override button on your block page, identify themselves, specify how long the override should occur for, and then any additional websites, and then boom, you're overriding that block page and that person is helping you. The warn page is basically a bypassable block page, and you can customize any of these messages, by the way, whether the block page or the warn page, and you can customize it to say whatever you want it to say. You can even use, obviously, HTML code would allow you to redirect to an internal or external server and pull an image, customizing that message. Put your company logo, your school's mascot, whatever on there. And the warn page will tell the person, hey, you know, if you go to this website, you're going to be logging in the warned activity log, which is actually another log found here. All requests are, you know, in the web log as well, too, though. But it's just a separate log that's viewable by the administrator. So, do you wish to proceed? And so it's going to give you the choice. And if you do proceed, then it does log in that warned activity log. If you go back, no harm, no foul. We don't log that request at that point. Monitor is a funny one. We can actually create a policy alert email. So if somebody goes to a website that's being monitored, they've just blown up the network administrator with a policy alert email. You can change the frequency so you're not spamming the IT administrator, but you can have that, you know, given to you as a report at the end of the day of all the people that went to monitored websites. And these users do not know that they're being tracked, so it's a way of Big Brother watching, so to speak. And allows just going too long.
What's kind of best practice out there right now, Stephen? I mean, are guys doing more warning or just outright blocking so they don't have to deal with it?
I would say that on a network that you're trying to clean up, more blocking. Now, on a network where bandwidth isn't such a problem, you know, you can allow them, but you want to at least warn them so that when you do warn them and they do proceed to that website, you can say, okay, well, you know, you were warned, and now you've gone to that website 20 times last week, so that's a problem, right? So it just depends, you know, on the individual company and what they need to do in order. And maybe they want to silently watch this too, so it depends on what they want to do.
Okay.
I did want to show you all these categories. We do categorize 99.95% of the internet sites. We have some good ones down here. Especially, you want to block these bad ones. Malicious sites, proxies, pornography, all the usual suspects. You can enable safe search as well. Maybe you don't want people, you know, seeing bad stuff by doing searches. We can actually enable that at a high level here, globally. You can also integrate with YouTube for Schools. If you're a school and you want to basically enforce your YouTube for School account, you can do that globally here. We have an uncategorized section just in case, you know, for that 0.05% of the websites, maybe obscure websites coming out of Canada, other countries in the world, before one of our customers, you know, hits that website or we identify it, it is going to be uncategorized. So if you want, you can block people from those, which could be, you know, malicious site, or at least warn them, or you can allow it. So it just depends on what you want to do. Custom categories, this section here, is actually the categories that you use to do policy exceptions. So you can do a one-time policy exception. This is basically grouping all of the categories that you want to include in this rule, all the additional websites that you want to block or allow for a given group. So say the finance department. You want to allow all of the banking sites, everything else, you want to group those together, and now you can do a one-time policy exception. I'll show you how to do these exceptions in just a minute, but you're going to see a listing of these in here, and you're probably just going to want to allow them because these are more for your exceptions, granular policy. If you don't know what category something falls under, we can look it up down at the very bottom here and see that social networking is the category that Facebook.com falls under. But we also show the custom categories too, so you know where they are as well. And if you feel like something is miscategorized, or you know that something is miscategorized, please submit that to us. Let us know, what category it should be, and we will, within 10 to 15 minutes, categorize that correctly for you. And I know that for a fact because I've done it multiple times, and my intent team is very good about categorizing those correctly. Next section I wanted to show you is the application control. Like I was saying, we are application aware with the web filter. So we have a listing of apps here. Maybe you don't want people spoofing their IP using Hotspot Shield. You can block it from a global level here. Maybe you don't want them circumventing the web filter with UltraSurf or FreeGate. We can block all versions of that. And we have a large listing of apps that we can block. The list just goes on and on. You don't want them playing World of Warcraft, bam.
Why are you going to stop that?
Maybe it's hogging bandwidth on the network and it's wasting time. Why would somebody be playing World of Warcraft at work is my question, right? I quit playing that years ago, but I have some friends that still play it, so I know that that's definitely one to block.
Sound like the fun place.
Exactly. It can be that way sometimes with the web filtering.
Yeah, no, it's you're at work, you're getting paid to work, so.
Did want to show off something in here. This is the web app control section, and this is pretty cool. For Facebook, I'm going to go down all the way. These are all the web applications that we can do this for. Facebook, we can actually block certain functions of Facebook, so even more policing here. You can allow Facebook, but maybe you don't want people launching apps that could have, virus and malware encrypted in it, or opening you up to bad stuff, or chatting, or maybe playing Farmville. We would block games, or maybe we shouldn't be uploading photos at work to Facebook, doing status updates, even launching a Twitter app. Now, one thing that I do want to point out here is that these web applications communicate over the HTTP protocol. So to be able to do this, we actually need to enable SSL inspection, and I'll go into a couple quick details on that later. But we can do this. It's just a matter of forwarding the traffic on 443 so that we can inspect it with the 6 series, the 610 web filter appliance. So to truly do this, we would need a 610 appliance. And again, we have a web app monitor section here, and this again is a 610 appliance feature because this is encrypted traffic. We can actually grab private messages, wall posts on Facebook, chat messages, send those to an email, and then archive that email if you have a message archiver. So our Barracuda message archiver would be able to do that, and any other archiver on the market would as well. So this is an advanced feature requiring SSL inspection, but we can actually grab private messages across Facebook, Twitter, Google, and Yahoo. Pretty advanced capabilities. And I'll show you how to set up the granular policy next. We've really been talking from a high level. Now we're getting granular here. So we can go to the action for the exception here. Let's do allow just for the sake of example, most common exception. And then we'll choose, again, the LDAP user group. But we see all the ways that we can enforce a policy exception there. Find our friend Layla once again so we can allow her something. And then choose the exception type. So this is where I usually explain, what the exception types are. So from a high level in the domain section, we're actually doing a blacklist or whitelist. Copy and paste whatever you need to blacklist or whitelist. Now maybe we need to do a more granular one for Layla. Or maybe it's URL patterns. Again, from the high level though, URL patterns are also known as regular expressions. So from a high level, we could block or allow, based on like a wildcard, all variations of a domain. We can allow all variations or block all variations. Or maybe it's just a URL in particular that we're concerned about, like ESPN.com/fantasy sports. I know a lot of you guys know about that one. So if we wanted to enforce a URL pattern here, we can. MIME type blocking, so that's again blacklisting of a file type. If we were to do MIME type blocking, we could actually choose between an upload or download rule, or of course we can do uploads and downloads. So any file type under the sun, essentially, we can do that rule for. If we were to choose content filter, applications, or web app control, we would need to choose a subcategory. So that's where the custom categories come into play. Maybe Layla's part of the finance department, so we're going to allow her finance department sites. We also can filter based on search terms and all web traffic. Now this is where I want to show you a cool rule to block actually. Now with this rule, we're actually blocking all unauthenticated access to the internet. This is a way to force authentication with one rule. And so this is done in the granular exceptions area, but it's very high level when you think about it, right? All your unauthenticated users are being blocked from all web traffic. That's forcing everybody to click the authenticate button and authenticate, identify themselves. So that's another cool thing you can do in here. Then you would choose a time frame to enforce the rule, the days of the week that you want to enforce it on, and a quota. So with allow rules, we can actually create daily, weekly, or monthly quotas based on time or bandwidth, downloaded or uploaded, depending on the rule again, because we can decide between both. Protocol, again, we can filter HTTP and HTTPS. So normally we would choose all, but you can choose between them if you like. Then a note to yourself what this is for, and the exception goes down below. And it's a top-down prioritized list of exceptions, and you can drag and drop these. I'll show you here. There's an HR rule right here to allow HR. We want sure that HR gets to their websites no matter what, so we're going to drag and drop it up there. Oops. And so now the HR exception is up at the very top, and that's going to get enforced no matter what. Another example is maybe you have a group exception to block a bunch of users in a group from going to those websites, but there's one user in that group that needs to be allowed those websites. So you make a policy exception for that given user, apply it, and then drag and drop him, so that he's above everybody else. So a very easy to manage list of policy exceptions, and you can see an example of how we would create one here. The other sections I'd like to point out in this demo is that you can customize any message using HTML code. That would be known as the blocked messages section. So again, that's where you would go to customize those messages. Browse test. You can go here and actually test. You can see based on the given URL if that IP address or LDAP user can actually access that website. We'll actually tell you down here, access denied or access allowed. Way to test your policy within your network. Now, if you're outside your network, you can't do that, but as soon as you get into your network, like there's certain instances where this is really handy, like on a big school campus or a very large, corporate headquarters, where you don't want to be running around to computers or trying to log in as different users. It's just very tedious. We can test that right from your computer. So I'm going to wrap this up. We're getting near the hour mark. On the Advanced tab, we have the backup. Very easy. As some of you guys may already have seen the spam and virus firewall, this is the same kind of backup as the spam and virus firewall. Also, the web interface itself looks very similar if you haven't noticed. So we can choose, what we'd like to back up here, how we'd like to back it up, when we'd like to back it up, how many backup files to keep, and then we can restore here. So if we ever get an upgraded unit down the line, we do have an upgrade path for all of our model appliances. So if you have a 310, but maybe you upgrade to a 410, so you have that unlimited access to the web security agent for remote filtering purposes, then we can restore your settings onto the 410, and you're up and running. You don't need to manually configure any of this stuff ever again. Syslog. Cool. Yeah. This is easily how you would bleed your reporting log data over to your syslog server. Very simple. Proxy. Maybe you've got some proxy authentication exemptions. This is getting more advanced, obviously, because it is the Advanced tab. But I do want to show these to you so you know about them. SSL inspection. Again, this is a function of the 610 model and higher, and this SSL inspection can be enabled. You don't want to do it very often. Maybe there's just something like Facebook.com, we want to grab those messages, or maybe we want to do that special, that certain aspect of Facebook that we want to block, that chat or that upload of photos. we're just concerned about that because with SSL inspection, it's very resource intensive, and so you only want to do it for the traffic that you're concerned about. That would probably usually be like social networking. So you don't want to definitely do it for all of them, but you maybe are just concerned with one of them. Linked management. This is great if you're looking to get an HA pair, you want to load balance between two web filters, or maybe you just want redundancy and you want to make sure that, okay, if you log into one of these web interfaces, you're essentially logging into the other boxes. And we can link 4, 10, and higher models together and cluster them. And they can be geographically separate. It doesn't really matter because in the cluster, if you make a change on one web interface, we're going to update and replicate those settings changes to the other boxes in the cluster. Energize updates are the next section here. Sometimes this one takes a little bit longer on the demo to load up, but we're going to have, I believe, 6 categories in here. Actually, no, 5 categories in here, and we'll be updating these on the hour, typically, once an hour, but sometimes 2 to 3 times an hour, depending on how crucial the updates are. And that one's taking a little bit while to load up. We also have firmware updates. And those are done manually. So the Energize updates are done automatically. You don't need to worry about that. But for the firmware, we can come in here and we can view the release notes, see if it's a good, upgrade to that firmware, and then choose to download it from here. That's done all manually. We can cache. We do have web cache on the web filter appliances. The 3 series and higher models can do web cache. We can enable it. We can also choose to not cache certain websites. And we can disable it. Maybe you don't want to do it. Only a couple more sections to show you guys. Delegated admin. Again, these are those roles that you can create. Temporary whitelist, that can temporarily override for people. Support, which would actually be policy exceptions. So if you want to delegate a role that can do policy exceptions only, we can do a support role. Monitor, which we do the reporting only. Manage would essentially be doing both of these roles combined, a read-only role and a co-administrator role. Now for the monitor role, I'll show you, if you put their display name, their username, you can actually have them receive policy alerts. Maybe there's monitored activity that you're looking at. You can put their email in there and limit their access. So we're running reporting, but we're only running it on a given group. For example, I'll do engineering, look up them, add them in. And now they're only going to receive policy alerts for the engineering group, and they'll only have access to the reporting of that engineering group. You can save it, and they'll go down below. Administrator can always come in here and disable the roles if they wish.
Cool.
Last couple sections here, I know we're getting towards the end, is the remote filtering. Yeah. So we do have a web security agent and a safe browser. So the web security agent, again, for normal operating systems, and the safe browser for iOS-type devices. And for the web security agent, we have a MSI packet you can use, group policy object push, very quickly hit every machine you want to hit with the WSA. And we can also support the Mac OS X agent as well for Apple MacBooks, iMacs. And then download the safe browser from here if you have an iOS device like an iPad or iPhone. I did want to point out that for the WSA, we can have it fail open just in case your firewall were to fail or maybe the web filter was turned off. We can have those remote users still access the internet, and we can run it in policy lookup only mode, actually saving bandwidth on your network because in this case, we're only looking up the request and we're not actually scanning that traffic. So we'll allow or deny the request, enforce content filtering and have real-time monitoring, but we'll avoid that scanning aspect. However, if you want to scan it, that's up to you. It will impact the bandwidth on your network as if they were in your network, but that is definitely a feature that would be default there. And then I'll just wrap it up by showing you the cloud control. We can easily connect this device to the cloud control. Once we've actually added it to the cloud control, show you guys something real quick here. And this is what your cloud control would look like. Say if you had multiple Barracuda products, we could come into here, and when this loads up, you'll see how easy it is to manage. There we go. It's going. Come on, baby. All right. Sometimes this one has a lot of data. Yeah, no. So we can see that we've added actually the spam and virus firewall. We have 2 units. We've added 3 web filters in here. We've got 2 WAFs, 1 archiver. We could, if we want, add in a link balancer, load balancer, as many as you want actually. As many devices as you have, you can add in here. Also your firewalls, we can see them in there as well. And so if you wanted to manage them independently, you could, or we could manage them actually as a group. So if we choose Web Filter 3, we're going to actually choose all 3 web filters simultaneously. We'll be able to do a health check on all your units. So we see that looks like web filter with 3600470 serial number has an issue with connectivity. So now we're already troubleshooting one of our web filters right from the cloud control. We'll also see that these 2 serial numbers have firmware that they're available to. So we can check the firmware and see if we can update the firmware on those. All this data is across all 3 web filters. So all the infection activity, blocked request logs, hourly web filter stats, and daily web filter stats. This is very similar to the web interface we were just looking at, but because we're in the cloud control, we can actually look at all of the data. Looks like one of them's down. That's why this yellow warning sign is up. So that's pretty much my my demo today. And if you guys have any technical questions, feel free to email me directly or my team. My direct email is schase, and that's S like Steve, Chase like the bank, at barracuda.com. Or you can email our alias actually, which would be CS like content security, so CS_sales at barracuda.com. And that'll get my entire team, and we can answer any questions that you guys might have. If you want to call me direct, you feel welcome to. I'm a content security specialist here. I would love to answer any questions you guys have offline at 408. Yeah, if you want, you can email this out too. 408-342-5521, and I'm here, during the normal work day.
Yep, and we'll facilitate that. All the account execs will be following up with you guys after this. So if you feel like you need to chat with Stephen, or we get him back on the horn for some custom demo, absolutely, that's how we'll do it. That's part of our value add. So I'm going to take back control here, and as we wait, see if any final questions come in. Thank you so much, Stephen, for the fantastic demonstration. Really appreciate it. And all the attendees, thanks for taking the time. We know that an hour is a lot of time out of your life. We appreciate you spending it with us. So look for the reps to follow up with you guys. Let us know what else you'd like to see, what you liked about this, what you'd like to see more of. With that, I'm going to be signing off. You guys have a great balance of your day and your week. Thank you.